Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Chad, by the way. I really want you to watch this video if you have this one issue or you're doing this one issue like I'm doing. That's really kind of, you feel like you're kind of holding back with manifesting. Manifesting isn't really working for you. And maybe you're doing Neville Goddard techniques, they're not working, or you're really just kind of getting vague results. You're getting some results, but that's not what you really want. So this one thing I kind of want to talk about really hits home to me, because especially if when you were growing up as a kid, if you had very overbearing parents, sometimes very protective parents, sometimes if you had very strict parents, lots of times you struggle with this issue that we're about to talk about here. And you could have grown up with a loving family, so I'm not saying anything negative. Yes, there's a negative side to it, but sometimes parents can be overbearing in a loving way, or when you grow up through your whole adolescent years, being a kid, being a teenager, young teenager, older teenager, this is kind of what has happened, is that you or your parents have made decisions for you your entire life. Until maybe you got out of high school, you got out of college, you live by yourself. Now all of a sudden you have to start making decisions on your own. And when you're used to either your parents making all the decisions for you, okay, no matter a loving way or not, no matter if they were just very strict and they beat it out of you as a kid, no matter you want to say, is that you grew up where decisions were made for you. Now the issue that comes with that, and this is kind of where I kind of come from. I grew up where my parents were, they were very loving, but kind of very overprotective. My dad was very, very strict, especially in my younger years, and even in teenagers and adolescents. Very strict, very, he made the decisions for you. Okay. And I'm not talking about when I was 10 years old, as far as I can remember, as long as I lived under their roof, he made the decisions. You did what he wanted you to do. He planned your day. You know what I mean? What happens is, especially now we're an adult, now we're trying to, we get into law of attraction, manifesting, we want a better life, and we're trying to figure out why this stuff isn't working. Lots of times it's coming down to our decisions, because what happens is we become very weak at decisions. We become very indecisive as adults, because as a kid, we were really indecisive as a kid. We really made no decisions as a kid because it wasn't taught to us. Okay. It wasn't, if we went to our parents and asked, hey, what should I do? Should I do this or do this? They chose it for us. Or if we were going to choose something bad, they would override and make a decision for us. Sometimes they just make a decision for us altogether, and that's it. They never kind of flipped it back at us and say, hey, what would you do? And kind of let you get used to making decisions. Now, as adults, we really become very, very, very indecisive. Lots of time, if you're like me, I really struggle with this. I like to think that I'm a great decision maker, but I can, if I'm not careful, I fall in the trap. I go right back to my bad habits when we talk about decision making and being decisive on what you really want, and not being vague about it. Most of the time what happens, if you're like me, we kind of we go with the flow. We're like the masters at going with the flow. Okay, if we hang out with friends, we're the masters at going with the flow. If we go out to eat with family, we're the masters at going with the flow. We're like, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to eat? Okay, I'll eat wherever you want to eat. We're the masters at it. We've mastered that technique. But the issue with that, I'm not talking about it's bad to go with the flow. It's not. But we do it. If you're like me, we do it to the extreme. Okay, we do it way to the extreme where we go with the flow with everything. And what happens is how it kind of affects our manifesting. No matter if we're doing Neville Goddard techniques, it's going to affect it negative. We're not going to get the results we really want, because what ends up happening is when we try to think about what we want, we're so much in our head that we're trying to think, is it a good decision, bad decision, good decision, bad decision? Because we're not used to making a decision, and we're not used to making a decision and just sticking to it. Okay, we're very indecisive when it comes to this. And lots of times, even in the past, it wasn't that long ago. Okay, I can remember when I lived in California, and I lived in California for 20 years. And, I would always want to, fly home and visit my mom, my sister, brother-in-law, my family and stuff like that. But I would never be decisive, and I would never make an exact decision when I'm flying home, what month I'm flying home, and buy my plane ticket in advance. I would always struggle with it in my mind. Then I would never make an actual date I'm going home. I would never purchase my ticket, and I would kind of go with the flow with it, even though that's what I want to do. Then I would basically purposely wait. Maybe you would say it's not really on purpose, but you would purposely wait until maybe a month before I would actually have to go. Then I look at plane tickets and see how much they cost. And of course you wait for the month you're going to go. Then, the plane tickets going from California to Ohio have doubled or tripled in price. Then at that point, the decision is made for you. You know what I mean? So we play a lot of, when we do that, we play a lot of games. We play a lot of mind games with ourselves where we feel like we're making a decision, but lots of times what we do is we wait too long. We purposely wait. We purposely are indecisive until it hits to a point where that decision is made for us. And either it's made for us by another person making that decision, or it's made for us because we just can't do it anymore. Because, for example, just like with my plane ticket, when it costs 3 times, 4 times as much, of course I talk myself out of it. Of course I say, I waited too long. I should have bought it earlier. I don't want to spend $1,200 just to fly from California to Ohio. So that decision is made for me. But if I was very decisive in the beginning and did everything in the beginning, I would be able to go. Okay, and these are the games that we play with ourselves. And this is one example, but I could give you many, many, many examples. I could sit down and probably write just in paper, just write pages and pages of games we really play with ourselves about being indecisive and not making decisions. Then when I brought up Neville Goddard, I brought up law of assumption, law of attraction. The reason why things aren't working, remember the key aspect to law of assumption, the key aspect to law of attraction with manifesting in general, the number one rule is you have to know exactly what you want. You have to be clear on what you want. You have to know exactly what you want, clear on what you want, definite about what you want, and you have to be very specific on what you want. Okay, the more specific you are, the better it's going to be. The easier it is to come to you, the more specific you are. But the problem with us, if you're like me, the problem that we do is we can't get past step 1. Because step 1 is knowing exactly what you want, being very, very, very specific. But then we don't make a firm decision on what we want. We kind of flip-flop back and forth. I want this. We keep on changing our minds because we don't know if it's a right decision, wrong decision, because we never developed that decision muscle as a kid. You know what I mean? So then we don't trust ourselves with our own decision making. Then to make it worse, we go to our family and ask them what we should do. We go to our friends that have a worse life than we do and ask them what we should do, and they give us their biased answer. We never just firmly sit here, ask our own intuition. And I'll post a video here I did on intuition and following your own intuition. But we never grown where we're confident in our own intuition, we're confident in our own decision making. And the more we get confident with this, the better you'll get at manifesting, because this is just step 1 of manifesting, is knowing clearly what you want. Especially with manifesting too, this is kind of part 2 to this, is that we have to be aware of our environment. We have to be aware of our surroundings. I mean, sometimes our surroundings can kind of suck the life out of us. Okay, and if you notice, like if you want better things in here, better better furniture, better decorations, and to make it look like a very luxury condo. It is a luxury condo, but when you're in the rooms, it don't look luxury because they don't put nothing in the room. or no declarations, or no nothing, no really expensive, furniture or anything. But that will uplift you. That's what we have to understand. That's why manifesting can be very tricky when you're trying to figure out why things are not working. It's usually not the technique. If you follow Neville Goddard, you do a Neville Goddard's technique, it's not the technique that's not working. It's really us. Okay, we have to figure out the bad habit we're doing. Sometimes it's several bad habits. Most of the time it's how we're thinking, our thought process. Sometimes it's basically, how we were brought up as a kid. So, and we're trying to figure all this out, and we have to become aware of what we're doing. And once we become aware, we can start adjusting it. We can start fixing it. And, you have to start thinking about your mental state, your positive state. Like, you have to start thinking about what makes you feel good and what makes you not feel good. And I've done videos about my place before, of, buying things for it. If it looks super nice, it just changes my state. And when you just change things like really nice and it changes your state, lots of times you'll manifest way better because you put yourself in a better state. You put yourself in a better emotional state. So I'll leave you with this. If you read the Think and Grow Rich, and I'll put a link down below for the book, you can just go to Amazon and get it. What Napoleon Hill has said, and he stated it almost all through the book about decision making, is successful and wealthy people make decisions very quickly, but change their mind very, very slowly. Okay, I'll say this one more time. Successful people, wealthy people make decisions very, very quickly and change their minds very, very, very slowly. Unsuccessful people do the opposite. Unsuccessful people, they take forever to make a decision. Okay, like what we're talking about here in this video. But they change their mind very quickly. They'll take forever to make a decision, but you'll change your mind like that. Okay, and with manifesting, if this is what you're doing, this is why manifesting isn't working for you. Okay, if you're not making a clear decision, a specific decision, a detailed decision on what you want, you need to stick to it. The whole point of Neville Goddard, and Neville Goddard said this: the law of assumption always works. Neville Goddard said he's never seen it fail. Okay, never seen it fail. The only way it fails is if you give up, if you don't persist. And that comes back to decision making. You have to make a decision and not change your mind and not give up and persist through it. That way you'll actually get what you want through persistence. But if you really struggle like I do with decision, this is going to be almost like you're trying to quit smoking. You know what I mean? Like, I've never struggled with smoking or anything like that, but I've been around a lot of people, a lot of friends who have. And it's just like an addiction. Like it's going to take a little bit of work. You're going to fall into bad habits. You're going to be uncomfortable making a decision, especially if you're always trying to overanalyze decision making rather than just make a decision, stick to it, don't change your mind. And that's what I kind of been working on here, because I'll fall back to old patterns. And that's why I said before, it's so easy to go backwards. It's so easy to fall back to old versions of Chad. And with decisions, this is an old version that I kind of fall back to all the time. And I really have to stay on my game when it comes to decision making. I really have to stay on my game when it comes to setting intentions and being very specific and very clear on what I want, even to, big things and even to little things, being super clear on what I want, even like stuff like, of me going home. Like, I'm going home in May. I bought my ticket a couple months ago because I thought, no, if I don't buy my ticket now, if I don't set I'm going home in May, that, I'm going to wait till it's too long. The next thing I know, it's going to cost me $2,000 or $3,000 just to buy one plane ticket to go home. You know what I mean? I need to know when I'm exactly doing it. I'm exactly going home. That way I can let my sister know, family know. And, it's cheaper for me, of course. And so we need to start making decisions, and we need to start being more confident that our decision making is the right thing for us, and we're following our intuition, and that everything's going to work out for the best. Doing kind of over analyzing with decision making and kind of being mental stress about it. At the end of the day, you're still here. Nothing has, your world didn't collapse on you. And your world's not going to collapse on you even if you make a bad decision. Lots of times there's no bad decisions. It's really our just perception of it. When we're trying to make a decision, even if we make a bad one, you just walk around it and do a course correction a little bit. And that's kind of I'm learning, kind of going through this game myself, is that when things aren't working out, I always look back at, what am I doing through the day? Well, what are my thoughts are through the day? Am I making different decisions? Am I following my intuition, or am I scared? It's always something that I find in myself. I can't talk about you. I can only talk about myself. Is that it always comes back to me. Okay, it's never the manifesting technique. It's always me. I'm doing something within my day, within my schedule, that is holding me back, and holding me back manifesting, or holding me back just to have a happier, more joyful life. And decision making is one of them. And decision making, I'm gonna leave you with this. I know I said I'm gonna wrap this up, but decision making also, it really kind of leads into, or being indecisive, not making decisions, really leads into anxiety. Mental anxiety when you're not making a decision. And I've noticed that kind of the older I've got. And I don't know if it's because I don't work out as much as I used to, but I seem to get kind of more anxiety now. And it's usually from me not making a decision. Okay, I'm struggling with something in my mind. I'm over-analyzing something in my mind. I'm over-analyzing something I want to do in my mind. I'm playing if this happens over here, this might happen. If this happens over here, this might happen, with the decision making. I don't know if I'm the only crazy one that does this, but I'm I'm kind of over analyzing decisions, going back and forth, rather than just making a decision. I mean, sit down, be quiet, get kind of a serene, and just listen to your own voice, listen to your own intuition, follow it, make a decision, don't look back. That's easier said than done if you struggle like I do, but that's kind of what we have to do. And a lot of times I feel probably the last maybe 3 or 4 years, I felt like I get more anxiety, and it always stems from me overthinking, and lots of times not making a decision. And sometimes it's simple stuff. Sometimes it's just not making a decision what I want to do for the day. Maybe I'm struggling with work. I have several things I got to do with work, and I'm trying to figure out what to do, and I have to be in the mood to do it. Or where we go out to eat tonight? Do I go down to the pool and just relax and chill? And these are all decisions that are simple decisions, but just make a decision and do it. And once I do that, usually my anxiety will go away. Usually the mental clarity will come back. It's just being very decisive, make a decision. And it works in both ways. Just normal day life things, not just with manifesting, normal day life decisions that we're making tiny decisions throughout the whole day. And then of course, bigger decisions, bigger goals, where we want our lives to go, so forth and so forth. But other than that, my friends, hopefully this helped. I didn't want to make this video too long. But anyway, blessings to you. Make sure you comment below. Let me know what's going on. If you struggle with this stuff just like I do. And we're all here to kind of help each other. This is a community, by the way. And what I struggle with, you might not struggle with, by the way. But you struggle with something else. So we're all here to kind of help each other. But other than that, blessings to you, and I'll see you in the next video.